Hello, my name is Diane, and today we're going to do a little unhaul. I've been going through my shelves recently. I don't reread books very often, if ever. I actually hardly ever reread books. I also don't tend to lend out books just because a lot of my friends in real life are either not readers, or if they are readers, they have very different reading tastes than I do. So I don't really have people browsing my shelves and asking if they can borrow something. So I'm just not one to collect a ton of books. I do most of my reading from the library or getting advance copies from publishers. So I'm not really buying many books anymore at all. And some of these books that aren't my absolute favorites, I don't really feel a need to keep them because they are kind of just sitting on my shelf and they're never going to get read again. So I feel much better about just passing them on, donating them. I usually put them in a little free library for someone else to hopefully discover and pick up and love so that these books can get read again. But I don't have a ton of books to get rid of. I don't really own a ton of books at this point, but these are either books that I have enjoyed but I'm never going to read again, or I did a try chapter of and just don't think I'm really interested in anymore, and I'd rather they go get a second chance somewhere else. So first of all, I have Injection Volumes 1 through 3. This is a graphic novel series that mixes sci-fi and folklore. It definitely has some horror elements as well. And it's about a group who injects something into the internet. It's very weird. It's also been a while since I've read it. They inject something into the internet that evolves. There is magic involved in this as well. It's just it's very interesting. I really liked it. Mix of sci-fi and magic and folklore, which I really enjoy. But I don't think this is ever going to be finished at this point. I'm pretty sure it's been canceled. I don't know if they officially canceled it, but I don't think it's ever getting a fourth volume. So I'd rather pass these on. I don't feel like I need them on my shelves. I don't really talk about them ever, even though I did enjoy them. They're just not something that I recommend or really see myself going back to. Then I have Where Things Come Back by John Corey Whaley. This is a young adult book about a boy who lives in a town and his brother has gone missing, his cousin has recently overdosed, and his town is now obsessed with finding this extinct bird that has supposedly come back. I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I expected to when I read it, but that was a long time ago, and it's just not a book that I really think about that often. I think it could be fun to reread this, but I just think the reality is I'm probably never going to, because I have a handful of books that I think I would like to reread, but I would just rather read a new story than reread things. That's probably a topic for another day. But anyway, I liked this book when I read it, but I don't see myself ever revisiting it or really recommending it that much. Even though I did enjoy it, I do think it's good. I would recommend this. It's just not a book that I find myself thinking about often or ever going back to. In the same vein, going along with all these books that I've enjoyed and would recommend, but I don't think I'll ever go back to, and I don't feel like I talk about that much, I also have Prince of Thorns and King of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. I really enjoyed this series, but also I don't think it's my favorite thing from him, or just my favorite thing in general. It's just not one of my favorites as much as I liked it. I think his world building is really interesting. I eventually came to like the main character of this, although he is kind of an awful person. The only reason I haven't gotten rid of these sooner, I feel like I would have gotten rid of these a while ago, except these editions in particular are not easy to come by in the US. These are the UK editions, and I just like them a lot more than the US ones. However, I don't see myself ever adding the third book to my collection, or probably ever going back and rereading these, so I'd rather give them a chance to be read somewhere else. Then I recently did try a chapter, including books from my shelves that I haven't read yet. One of those was The Vagrant by Peter Newman. I started this ages ago. I've had this on my bookshelves for years at this point. I really love the cover. This was definitely a cover buy, but also the story sounded really interesting. I still think it sounds interesting. I'm curious what ends up happening, but also I just don't think I'm ever gonna get around to reading this. I should have read it years ago when I first got it and was really excited about it, and since then that excitement has kind of died down, and I just don't think I'm gonna prioritize this anytime soon. And finally, I have The Thief's Gamble, The Swordsman Oath, and The Gambler's Fortune by Juliet E. McKenna. This is a trilogy that I got at a library sale. Trying not to make it super glare. This is a series that I got from a library sale. The library near my old work had just a room filled with tables, filled with old books that they were getting rid of, and I ended up only being able to go towards the very end of the sale, and you could just fill an entire bag for only $5. I ended up getting quite a few books from that, and these were some of them, and I just never got to read them. And then when I did my try a chapter, I don't think I'm ever going to prioritize these at this point. I think, again, the interest in this has kind of died down over the years because I have had these for years. So those are all the books I'm going to be donating, giving them a chance to get read and hopefully loved by someone else, because I'm either never going to reread them or I enjoyed them but they're not my absolute favorites, so I don't feel a need to keep them on my shelves. I really only like keeping books that I absolutely have loved on my shelves anymore. I don't really want or need or have the room for a giant book collection. As someone who doesn't really reread or lend things out, I think if I reread things or if I had friends who borrowed books from me all the time who were fantasy readers, I would be more inclined to keep these, but that's just not the reality. So I'll be donating these, and my shelves will have a little more room on them. They'll be a little less cramped and a bit more curated to my current taste. That's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.